The chandelier glimmered like 1,000 tiny suns above the ballroom, scattering golden flecks over marble floors and sequined gowns. Sofia moved quickly, weaving between waiters and decorators, her chef's whites already dusted with sugar and sweat. She could feel the party swelling on the other side of the swinging kitchen door, a hurricane of wealth, gossip, and old grudges, while she kept to the shadows. Tonight, the Vargas estate sparkled even more than usual. The daughter of the house, Juliana Vargas, was celebrating her engagement to Nathaniel Beck, Miami's most eligible bachelor, the sort of man whose name appeared in magazines right next to headlines about private islands and trust funds. Sofia's mother, Luz, used to say, "Every wedding is a stage, but this one is the Super Bowl." Sofia wiped her brow and checked the towering cake once more. 5 tiers, each sculpted with sugar orchids and gold leaf, balanced like a promise she couldn't quite trust. She'd worked on it for 3 days, perfecting every layer, knowing the Vargas matriarch expected nothing less than edible perfection from the maid's daughter. She heard laughter and the clink of champagne through the swinging door, and for just a moment, a memory hit her. Running through these halls as a child, chasing Juliana in oversized dresses and sticky shoes, back when lines between princess and pauper blurred. But those days were long gone. A flustered wedding planner pushed into the kitchen. "You, Sofia! They want a photo with the cake before the guests move to the garden. And Mrs. Vargas says your hairnet's showing." Sofia forced a smile. "Right away." As she rolled the cake out on its cart, the kitchen staff fell silent, watching her with the tense respect reserved for someone about to face a firing squad. The ballroom was brighter than she remembered. Crystal, gold, and white roses everywhere. Juliana stood at the center in a silk gown, laughing as cameras flashed. Their eyes met, just for a second, Juliana's smile flickering, then hardening into practiced perfection. "Isn't it beautiful?" Juliana crooned to her fiancé, gesturing to the cake as if Sofia wasn't there. "Our baker is a true artist. You remember Sofia, don't you, Nathaniel? She practically grew up in this house." Nathaniel grinned politely, not recognizing her at all. Mrs. Vargas glided over, eyes sharp behind her smile. "Sofia, I hope you didn't use too much cinnamon. You know how my daughter's palate is." Sofia swallowed her pride. "Of course, señora. It's exactly as you asked." A photographer snapped photos. The bride, the cake, the proud mother, the beaming guests. Sofia tried to shrink into the background, but one of the younger cousins, Isabel, maybe 11, tugged her sleeve. "Did you really live here, Miss Sofia?" Sofia nodded, heart tightening. "A long time ago." A sudden commotion broke the mood. 2 police officers entered at the far side of the room, discreet but impossible to miss. Whispers darted like fish through water. Sofia's pulse spiked. Her first wild fear was for her mother, working somewhere among the cleaning staff tonight. But the officers moved past her, seeking out Mr. Vargas and Nathaniel. There were murmurs about foundation funds and misplaced donations. But Mrs. Vargas herded the guests toward the garden, laughter returning with forced brightness. Sofia retreated to the kitchen, shaking. The staff were abuzz. "I heard someone's been stealing from the charity. They say the wedding is to distract everyone. You know how rich people are." She turned her attention back to the cake, but a chill had settled in her bones. Something was wrong. Something big. And she knew from the way the Vargas family looked at her and her mother that if blame needed to fall, it would fall hardest on those with no power to defend themselves. Sofia stepped outside for air, catching a glimpse of her mother in the shadows, mopping the marble. Luz looked tired, older than her years, but her eyes flashed with pride when she spotted her daughter. "You did good, mija. Don't let them make you small." Sofia smiled, hugging her mother. But as fireworks burst above the garden and the guests cheered, she felt a sense of dread. Every time the Vargas family faced scandal, it was the help who paid the price. And she couldn't shake the feeling that this night, despite all her hard work and careful distance, would pull her back into their games, this time not as a child, but as a woman with everything to lose. Long before Sofia knew how to temper chocolate or balance a cake on trembling hands, she knew what it meant to live in two worlds. There was the world upstairs, of gleaming tile, birthday parties, and piano lessons, where she and Juliana Vargas spun in the sunlit halls like sisters. Then there was the world below stairs, where her mother's laughter was soft, her hands raw from scrubbing, and the rules were written in silence. For a time, childhood blurred those boundaries. Sofia and Juliana, born just 3 months apart, grew up tangled together, sharing sleepovers, swapping secrets under bedsheets, inventing languages only they understood. Luz, always busy but fiercely loving, would sneak them extra slices of tres leches cake after dinner, winking as if all things sweet belonged to both girls. But Sofia learned early that sweetness was conditional. When Mrs. Vargas arrived home, the laughter dimmed. Sofia's mother became Luz again. Never mama, never señora, always a step behind, her head bowed just so. If Sofia ran through the house barefoot, she was scolded. If Juliana did the same, it was free-spirited. At family parties, Sofia wore pressed hand-me-downs. Juliana sparkled in couture dresses with matching ribbons. Still, the illusion held until the summer Sofia turned 13. That June, a silver bracelet disappeared from Mrs. Vargas's vanity. The house went upside down. Servants lined up for questioning. Bags were searched. Luz was last, standing tall despite shaking hands. Mrs. Vargas's tone was icy. "You've been here long enough to know how we handle theft, Luz. Where is it?" "I did not take anything," Luz replied, voice steady. "You know I would never." But the staff manager pulled the bracelet from beneath Luz's mattress. Sofia remembered the look on her mother's face. Stunned, then determined, then heartbreakingly resigned. The accusation was enough. Evidence didn't matter. Juliana watched, wide-eyed and silent, as her mother declared, "We can't have dishonesty in our home. I'm sorry, Luz. You and your daughter will have to leave. Immediately." Sofia pleaded with Juliana, certain her friend would speak up. "You know my mother didn't do it. Please tell them." But Juliana said nothing. She looked away, her cheeks burning with the shame of privilege, fear, or both. The next day, Sofia was pulled from her private school mid-semester. There were whispers in the halls. Maid's daughter, thief, troublemaker. Her scholarship was revoked. The school principal, who had praised her for her reading and math, would not meet her eyes. Their apartment above the garage was emptied in hours. Luz and Sofia drifted through cheap motels, then found a cramped studio in a distant Miami suburb. Luz took night shifts at a laundromat, coughing through endless detergent fumes. Sofia tried to adjust at a crowded public school, where her accent and rich kid vocabulary made her a target. Kids asked if she used to live in a mansion. She learned to hide her past, to eat lunch alone. Sometimes she'd dream of the Vargas estate, its lemon trees, the feel of silk sheets, Juliana's laughter echoing in marble halls. But most mornings, She woke angry and ashamed. Angry at the family who tossed them out without a second thought. Ashamed that, despite it all, she missed the old world. Luz, though exhausted, kept a stubborn hope alive. "We have each other, mija. That's more than any gold bracelet." But Sofia saw what had been lost. Her mother's smile faded. Her own dreams, college, travel, a life beyond kitchens, slipped away beneath bills and exhaustion. She took part-time work at a bakery to help pay rent. The scent of sugar and dough a faint comfort in a world turned bitter. Every so often she'd see a magazine photo of Juliana, smiling beside her parents at charity galas, wearing a new bracelet, a new dress. Sofia wondered if she remembered the girl who used to braid her hair, or if the world upstairs had always belonged only to one of them. But one lesson was now permanent. In the world of the rich, someone always paid for their mistakes, and it was never the ones in silk dresses. The years after the scandal were made of hard work and harder truths. Sofia and Luz counted coins at the grocery store, learned to stretch a sack of rice for a week, and walked everywhere because bus fare was a luxury. Gone were the marble floors and lemon trees. Now, their world was linoleum tiles, discount markets, and nights spent listening to the hum of broken air conditioners. Luz worked 2 jobs, laundry by day, janitorial by night. Sofia, old before her time, took shifts at La Rosa Bakery as soon as she turned 14. She started as a dishwasher, fingers red from soap, arms aching from carrying trays of bread. But the kitchen was a sanctuary. The smell of cinnamon rolls, the warmth of the ovens, the quiet pride in making something sweet from so little. Sofia's classmates at the public high school didn't understand her silences. Some made fun of her maid clothes. Others mocked her bookish Spanish accent. She kept her head down, grades steady, and dreams locked tight. Every so often someone would recognize her. "Weren't you that Vargas girl's friend?" But she pretended not to hear. It was Luz who insisted that dignity could not be stolen. "They took our home, Sofia, but not our corazón. No one can touch your heart unless you let them." One night, Sofia found her mother weeping over an envelope, another hospital bill. Luz tried to smile, wiping tears away with a flour-dusted hand. "We'll make it, mija. We always do." But Sofia saw the pain in her eyes, the hunched shoulders, the exhaustion that never seemed to fade. As Luz's health faltered, Sofia took on more shifts, sometimes skipping school to work double. The bakery owner, Doña Martinez, noticed her dedication. "You have hands for dough, niña. Quick, careful. Let me teach you something more." With each lesson, Sofia gained skill and confidence. She learned to knead by feel, to balance flavors, to decorate cakes with artistry. Baking became a language she spoke fluently, her way of reclaiming a sense of control in a world that had snatched away everything else. The regulars at La Rosa, mostly working mothers and tired abuelas, grew to trust Sofia. They shared gossip and recipes, told her about lost dreams, and quietly slipped her extra tips. "You're a good girl, Sofia. Don't let the rich people grind you down." Yet the world never let her forget her place. Once, while delivering pastries to a private school, she ran into Juliana and her friends, now grown, sleek, laughing. Juliana barely acknowledged her. "Oh, Sofia, I didn't realize you were still in Miami. How nice." Her tone was polite, but her eyes darted past Sofia, already onto bigger, shinier things. That night, Sofia returned home, heart pounding with shame and fury. She watched her mother sleep in an armchair, exhausted by work and worry, and made herself a promise. She would not let this be their story's end. She would build a life they could be proud of, with or without forgiveness from those who'd hurt them. The path was never easy. Luz's illness forced Sofia to pause her dream of college, but she kept learning, reading recipe books from the library, experimenting with flavors in the quiet hours after closing. She taught local girls how to bake after school, some from troubled homes, some barely getting by, all needing a safe place. The bakery became more than a job. It was a refuge, a classroom, a workshop of hope. Every loaf, every lesson was an act of defiance, a small, sweet victory in a world built to keep her down. One night, as Sofia cleaned up, Doña Martinez handed her a key. "I'm getting old, mija. This place needs new hands, new heart. Think about it." Sofia stared at the key, feeling the weight of her years, of struggle, of loss, of everything the world tried to take. But somewhere deep inside, a new resolve took root. She was the maid's daughter, yes, but she was also her mother's legacy, and she would prove once and for all that their story was not finished. Owning a bakery wasn't the dream Sofia had as a child. But as she stood in the warm glow of La Rosa's kitchen, sunlight dusting flour across her arms, she realized dreams sometimes took the shape of survival. And then, if you fought hard enough, of joy. The bakery was tiny, its neon sign flickering at dusk, but it became a beacon in the neighborhood. Sofia poured her soul into every recipe. Guava pastries for homesick abuelas, spiced cinnamon rolls for tired construction workers, and airy chiffon cakes for children's birthdays, each one baked with a memory, a prayer, or a secret wish. Doña Martinez officially handed over the keys the summer Luz's health began to stabilize. "You saved this place, niña," she said, voice thick with pride. "Now let it save you, and anyone who needs it." Sofia's first order of business was simple. Make La Rosa a safe place for girls who, like her, had nowhere else to go. She posted a hand-lettered sign in the window. "After-school baking club. All girls welcome. No experience needed. No questions asked." At first, just 2 showed up. Carmen, shy and silent, wore long sleeves even in the heat. Lupe, bold but wary, challenged Sofia to teach me something that isn't boring. Sofia smiled, handed them each an apron, and started with the basics. Measuring, mixing, sharing secrets over bowls of melting chocolate. Word spread. By fall, the club had grown. 6, then 12 girls. Some arrived hungry, some bruised by life, all carrying stories they barely dared to share. Sofia taught them more than baking. She taught patience, self-respect, the discipline of crafting something beautiful from mess and heat. "You don't have to be perfect," she'd say, guiding trembling hands through a lattice crust. "You just have to try again. Mistakes are proof you're learning. Your story doesn't end just because someone else closes a door." With every batch, the girls grew bolder, trying new recipes, helping each other, laughing at failed experiments. Sofia watched as Carmen began to smile, as Lupe's anger softened into mischief, as the club became a sisterhood of survivors. The bakery's reputation flourished. Regulars lined up for Sofia's tamarind scones and dulce de leche cookies. A local journalist ran a piece, "The Sweetest Refuge, How a Tiny Miami Bakery is Changing Lives, One Girl at a Time." Donations trickled in, bags of flour, gift cards, even new ovens from a grateful grandmother whose granddaughter found safety within La Rosa's walls. Sofia also found herself mentoring other young women, mothers from the shelter, high school dropouts, a runaway who became her assistant. She hosted career days, inviting local women in every field, nurses, mechanics, teachers, to show the girls that their futures could be as wide and varied as their dreams. On Sundays, Sofia reserved the kitchen for herself and Luz. They baked pan dulce and told stories from the old country, letting the laughter wash away the ache of hard years. Luz, frailer but no longer defeated, became the club's beloved abuela, teaching the girls to braid dough and blessing every loaf with a whispered prayer. Yet, even as hope blossomed, Sofia's scars remained. She avoided the upscale neighborhoods, rarely glanced at society pages, and never spoke Juliana Vargas's name. Some wounds took longer to heal. Then, one autumn afternoon, a sleek black car parked outside La Rosa. A woman in pearls and a familiar expensive scent stepped inside. Mrs. Vargas, older now but every bit as regal, followed by her personal assistant. Sofia's heart slammed against her ribs. Mrs. Vargas glanced around, nose wrinkling at the humble decor. "We need a wedding cake," she announced, "for Juliana's marriage. She insists you're the only one who can do it, for old time's sake." For a split second, Sofia considered refusing. But as she looked at the ring of girls gathered around the work table, her chosen family, she understood what was at stake. This was more than a cake order. It was an invitation back to the house that had once cast her out, and perhaps a chance to rewrite the ending. Sofia smiled, cool and gracious. "Of course, señora. I'll make it unforgettable." As Mrs. Vargas swept out, the girls peppered Sofia with questions. "Are you nervous? Will you go back to that mansion? What's it like being chosen now?" Sofia thought of Luz's words. "No one can make you small unless you let them." She straightened her shoulders, dusted flour from her apron, and grinned. "Girls, let's bake a cake Miami will never forget." The recipe for hope, she realized, was always the same. Start with what you have. Stir in courage. And never, ever let someone else decide your worth. For weeks, Sofia poured herself into the wedding project, her hands moving through flour and sugar with focus as sharp as any general before battle. La Rosa's kitchen became a whirl of sketches, samples, and whispered speculation from her girls. Sofia kept her true feelings tucked behind a measured smile. This cake would not be for forgiveness, but for clarity. And perhaps a reckoning. The Vargas family sent an official invitation in a heavy ivory envelope. Sofia nearly laughed at the irony. The name Sofia Morales, printed in gold script, looked more at home among Miami's elite than it ever had in their servants' records. Luz, frail but proud, pressed the invitation to her chest. "You show them, mija. Show them what real dignity looks like." Sofia attended the cake tasting alone. The mansion was even grander than she remembered. New fountains, manicured lawns, a fleet of valets outside. The air inside was thick with perfume and rehearsed pleasantries. Sofia entered the formal dining room to find Mrs. Vargas and Juliana waiting, ringed by wedding planners and society columnists. Juliana's face softened for an instant when she saw Sofia, a flicker of the childhood friend, before the mask dropped. "Sofia, it's beautiful, just like old times." But her voice was brittle, her eyes shadowed. Mrs. Vargas, all business, began issuing demands. "Less spice, more white chocolate. The monogram must be gold. The guest list is sensitive." Sofia nodded, making notes, her posture careful, always the professional. While the planners argued over ribbon colors, Juliana leaned in, whispering, Do you ever think about back then? Before everything changed? Sofia looked her in the eye. Every day, a pained smile. Then the conversation was swept away in the tide of planning. As Sofia left, Juliana slipped a handwritten note into her palm. Please, I need to talk. Alone. That evening, Sofia waited in the shadow of the old lemon grove behind the mansion. Juliana arrived, draped in a designer coat, eyes darting nervously. I'm scared, she confessed, voice raw. This wedding, it's not what you think. My parents, they're desperate. There's an investor threatening to pull out, something about missing charity funds. If this match goes through, the money stays. The press backs off. If it doesn't, everything falls apart. They're using me, Sofia, like a pawn. Sofia felt a mix of vindication and sympathy. You have choices, Julie, more than they want you to believe. Juliana's hands shook. Maybe you did. But in this family, choices are an illusion. And now they want your cake, your story, front and center. Makes for a good headline, doesn't it? Forgiveness. Old friends reunited. It's all a lie. Sofia squeezed her arm gently. I'll help however I can, but you have to want out. Before Juliana could answer, footsteps crunched on gravel. Mrs. Vargas appeared, all icy composure. Girls, everything all right? Juliana snapped back into her practiced smile. Just reminiscing, Mama. That night, Sofia lay awake, piecing together the undercurrents. The Vargas Foundation, once flush, rumored to be under investigation. New donors demanding fresh blood and better press. Juliana, the family's golden ticket, being sold to save a fortune and a name. A strange request from Mrs. Vargas's assistant. For a second, secret gift cake for an unnamed guest. And then, one of Sofia's bakery girls, Lupe, shared a hushed conversation she'd overheard at her side job as a hotel maid. The Vargas matriarch is laundering charity money through the wedding. Some donors are expecting kickbacks. Sofia felt the old anger burn hot. But this time, she was not powerless. She had allies, skills, and a community who believed in her. She began to document every strange order, every coded request, every slip of the tongue from a planner or servant. She looped in Carmen, whose cousin worked IT for the event. Quietly, they gathered texts, emails, receipts. The wedding cake would be the centerpiece, but Sofia knew now that the real recipe she was perfecting was for justice. And as the day of the ball approached, the girl once cast out returned to the mansion not as a servant, but as a storm, ready to taste and deliver her own brand of sweet revenge. Sofia's plan started in the humblest corners of the Vargas mansion, among kitchen maids, gardeners, laundry girls, and dishwashers. She recognized their faces from childhood, though the years had etched new lines of weariness and pride. These were the people who heard everything, saw everything, but were trained to vanish when the powerful entered the room. Sofia worked late in La Rosa's kitchen, the baking club, now her unofficial war room. She confided in Carmen, Lupe, and a growing circle of bakery girls who had their own secrets from service jobs in Miami's mansions. Together, they made a map. Names, schedules, hidden staircases, and rumors. Who controlled the keys to the wine cellar? Which wedding planner was bribed to ignore double-booked invoices? Where were the secret gift bags for special guests stored before the reception? They met after hours, rolling dough and exchanging coded updates. Laughter lightened even the tensest strategy sessions. Lupe mimicked Mrs. Vargas's accent perfectly, Carmen imitated the stiff butler who once kicked Sofia out of the kitchen for lingering. The girls who once feared the city's rich now found power in their unity. The plan was simple, but bold. Sofia would leverage her position as the official cake designer to gain access to the most sensitive corners of the house. Her girls, posing as temporary servers, florists, and cleaners, would plant recorders, take photos, and retrieve documents. The IT cousin hacked into the event planner's emails, revealing a cascade of suspicious wire transfers and donor bribes disguised as vendor bonuses. What stunned Sofia most was how eager the staff were to help. Years of being overlooked had made them invisible, and now, for the first time, their knowledge was a weapon. One late night, as flour dust danced in the bakery's warm light, Luz sat with Sofia, worried but proud. "This is dangerous, mija." "Are you sure?" Sofia squeezed her mother's hand. "They took everything from us, but we have the truth. We have each other. That's more than they'll ever understand." The day before the wedding, Juliana slipped into the bakery through the back door. Her hands trembled as she sipped tea. "I want out, Sofia. But I'm scared. If this comes out, my parents, everyone, will know what they did to us. What if it all falls apart?" Sofia steadied her. "Then let it. The only way to build something real is to let the old lies crumble." Juliana nodded, hope flickering through her fear. "What do I do?" Sofia explained the plan. On the day of the wedding, when the toasts were raised and the cake wheeled in, Juliana would give a short speech. One the press expected would be all gratitude and pageantry. Instead, she would tell the truth. About the family's manipulation, the stolen funds, the women they'd sacrificed to keep up appearances. The staff would be ready. Emails sent to journalists, video files uploaded to public sites, hidden microphones recording every word. That night, the bakery girls celebrated with tres leches and salsa music, nerves buzzing. Sofia stood in the doorway, looking out at her little army. Mothers, daughters, survivors, and fighters. "Tomorrow," she said, "we show them that the ones they thought were invisible were watching all along." Luz raised her cap. "Por la dignidad. For dignity." As dawn crept over Miami, Sofia felt the anxiety in her bones, but also the fierce satisfaction of a battle joined. She slipped the bakery's best kitchen knife into her bag, not for violence, but for symbolism. The girl who once washed floors in silence would now cut the first slice of the cake that toppled a dynasty. They were ready. The recipe for revenge was rising. The morning of the Vargas wedding dawned sticky and bright, Miami's air electric with gossip and anticipation. La Rosa's kitchen was a storm of aprons, flour, and nerves. Sofia's girls moving in practiced chaos. They laughed, sang, and rehearsed the day's plan between layers of fondant and fruit glaze, their camaraderie a shield against the world outside. Sofia inspected the final cake, a soaring confection of vanilla sponge, passion fruit mousse, and sugared orchids. It was art, but also subterfuge. Inside the cake box, hidden among piping tips, lay a flash drive loaded with digital files, ready for delivery to a trusted journalist waiting in the crowd. By noon, the bakery team, new dresses ironed, hair braided, cheeks flushed with purpose, arrived at the Vargas mansion under the guise of caterers and event staff. Each had a role. Carmen, in the flower room, secretly photographed guest lists and donation ledgers. Lupe mingled in the kitchen, swapping coded jokes with old friends, now prepping hors d'oeuvres. their pockets stuffed with tiny recorders. Maribel, who'd once scrubbed floors for Mrs. Vargas, slipped into the staff office and snapped pictures of checks signed with fake names. Their network extended further. The doorman, whose wife Sofia had taught to bake, handed off a manila envelope of payroll records to a bakery girl. A valet, grateful for Sofia's kindness to his sick child, discreetly filmed a heated conversation between Mr. Vargas and a man known for laundering money through shell charities. Sofia moved from station to station, cool and composed. To guests and event planners, she was just the help, unseen, unimportant. But to the staff she was a general, and the code words flew thick. More powdered sugar meant a donor was asking about offshore accounts. This icing's too stiff, signaled the arrival of a difficult, possibly dangerous guest. Oven's running hot, warned of Mrs. Vargas prowling nearby, suspicious of any slip. Luz, wearing her oldest apron as a badge of honor, coordinated refreshments for the real workers. She kept spirits high, reminding the staff, "Hoy somos familia. Today we are family." They can't buy that. Behind the scenes, adrenaline surged. The girls' phones pinged with updates. Carmen texting, "Got the list. Looks dirty as sin." Lupe replying, "Just emailed files to the reporter. Ready for round 2. There were close calls. Once a security guard cornered Maribel, asking why she was near the office safe. Sofia intervened with a tray of macarons, making jokes about secret recipes and distracting him until Maribel could slip away. Another time, Mrs. Vargas demanded that Sofia redo an entire cake tier because the color was too cheerful. But Sofia saw it as extra time to check her phone and relay instructions. As the afternoon wore on, the wedding preparations reached a fever pitch. Journalists gathered outside, lured by rumors of celebrity guests. The kitchen buzzed with last-minute orders and sharp voices. But beneath it all, the current of rebellion ran strong. Every bakery girl and old servant knew what was at stake. Not just for Sofia or Juliana, but for every woman who'd ever been blamed, silenced, or sent away. An hour before the ceremony, Juliana found Sofia in the lemon grove. She was pale but steady, hands twisting a silk handkerchief. "I have to do it, don't I?" she whispered. Sofia nodded. "You get to do it. That's the difference." They hugged, awkwardly, fiercely, as childhood pain gave way to adult alliance. When the time came, Sofia donned her chef's coat, shoulders squared. She watched as her girls, her army, took their places around the mansion, some with serving trays, some with cell phones poised. Luz stood at the edge of the kitchen, eyes shining with pride. The line between servant and master, victim and victor, had never been so thin. Sofia's revenge wasn't about shouting or smashing. It was a quiet, determined choreography. A sisterhood in aprons, reclaiming the story, one secret and one slice at a time. The moment of truth was coming. And the maid's daughter was ready to laugh. Last. The sun dipped low over the mansion as the first notes of the string quartet floated through the garden. White chairs fanned out across the lawn, guests glimmering in designer silks and tailored suits. The air buzzed with gossip and champagne, no one noticing the quiet dance of bakery girls and former maids moving with calculated precision. Sofia watched from the tented kitchen. Fingers dusted with flour, heart pounding in time with the clock. Everything was ready. The flash drive hidden in the cake cart, emails scheduled to hit inboxes as soon as the first toast was made, staff in place at every critical juncture. Today, the help would write the story. Juliana stood behind a bank of roses, veiled and luminous, but her eyes found Sofia, and something like gratitude, maybe courage, passed between them. "If this works," she whispered, "we change everything." The ceremony was a blur of scripted vows and polite applause. Sofia focused on her breathing, on the weight of the cake trolley, on her girls whispering updates through earpieces tucked beneath their hair. Carmen, by the guest list, murmured, "Big donor just slipped a fat envelope to the best man." Lupe, refilling drinks, snapped photos of a suspicious laptop in the groom's suite. Maribel caught Mrs. Vargas hissing orders to her assistant. "Make sure the board sees me with Senator Diaz." As the reception unfolded, Sofia's team moved like shadows, serving, listening, documenting. Guests barely glanced at the staff, their eyes on the spectacle, a 6-tier cake wheeled onto the dance floor, the press crowding for a better shot. Mrs. Vargas called for silence, clutching a microphone. "To family, to tradition, to the future of Miami, and to my daughter, Juliana, the pride of our legacy." The applause was thunderous. Then it was Juliana's turn. She stepped forward, hands trembling around a folded note. Her voice shook, but grew steadier as she spoke. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight is about beginnings, yes, but also about truth. I need to share mine, not just as a Vargas, but as myself." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sofia's heart lodged in her throat. Juliana took a deep breath. "For years, my family has expected me to keep silent for the sake of reputation and money. But silence can destroy. Today, I'm breaking with that tradition. I cannot marry into a lie. I cannot be complicit in what's been done. Behind closed doors, in the name of charity, or in the treatment of those who served this house for generations." The room froze. Mrs. Vargas's face drained of color. Mr. Vargas tried to snatch the microphone, but Juliana held firm. "To every woman and girl who was blamed for what she didn't do, to every dollar stolen from the community, I see you. I'm sorry, and I won't let it continue." At that cue, emails and evidence began flooding reporters' phones. The journalist Sofia's girls trusted jumped to her feet, waving the envelope from the cake cart. "I have documents, fraud, bribes, theft, ready for publication. This wedding is a cover for a crime." Cameras whirred. The ballroom erupted. Guests arguing, staff whispering, Mrs. Vargas shouting for security to stop the press. But the evidence was already viral. Social media exploded. #Vargas, wedding scandal, #justice is served. #Maid daughter, revenge. Police entered, responding to tips. The special gift cake was found to contain not only receipts, but a hidden voice recorder capturing Mr. Vargas's side deals. In the chaos, Sofia's girls rallied together, ensuring no one, especially Mrs. Vargas, could intimidate or hurt Juliana. The bakery team shielded loose as she gathered their things, their work finally done. As Juliana left the stage, she found Sofia in the corridor. For the first time since they were children, they embraced as equals, two women choosing truth over silence. "It's over," Juliana breathed, tearful but free. Sofia grinned, exhausted and victorious. "It's only the beginning." The wedding ruse had become the reckoning, one where every invisible hand, every silenced voice, finally had the last word. The Vargas wedding, meant to be the event of the season, became the scandal of the year. News vans lined the street by midnight, headlights washing the estate in blue and red, as Miami's finest streamed through the gates, badge numbers gleaming in the camera flashes. The once untouchable house of Vargas was now the scene of a live unraveling. Inside, chaos reigned. The well-heeled guests stampeded for the exits, high heels abandoned on marble, pearls left swinging on overturned chairs. The orchestra stopped playing. The caterers froze mid-serve. Mrs. Vargas shrieked at security to "Lock the doors! Stop the press! Call our lawyers!" But her voice was drowned out by reporters thrusting microphones and cell phones at anyone who looked important. The bakery girls and allied staff, no longer invisible, stood tall at the edges of the chaos. Carmen filmed as Mrs. Vargas was surrounded by 2 officers, her protests sharp and shrill. Lupe distributed thumb drives to the journalists clustered by the fountain. Maribel helped an elderly groundskeeper, once dismissed as just the gardener, answer questions about backdoor deals and late-night deliveries. Sofia kept her cool, shepherding Luz and the younger bakery girls to safety by the kitchen exit. She made sure Juliana, now trembling but resolute, was never left alone. "They can't touch us now," Sofia whispered, squeezing her mother's hand. The story's out. As the evidence spread, photos, emails, voice recordings, the city buzzed. Social media exploded with hashtags and outrage. People who'd long suspected corruption at the Vargas Foundation finally had proof. Former donors went public. Families who'd applied for grants and been mysteriously rejected added their voices. A local news anchor declared, "Tonight, Miami's most powerful family faces their reckoning. The era of silence is over." The police, armed with warrants and a mountain of digital proof, began their work. Mrs. Vargas was taken into custody for obstruction and suspected charity fraud. Mr. Vargas, pale and sweating, was questioned about wire transfers and ghost vendors. The best man was caught trying to sneak out with a briefcase full of cash. Live on camera, reporters begged for interviews with Sofia and her team. But she kept her answer simple. "We were just tired of seeing the wrong people blamed. Justice belongs to everyone, even those who bake the cake or sweep the floor." As dawn crept over the battered mansion, Sofia, Luz, and the girls gathered in the quiet lemon grove. Now their sanctuary, not their exile. Juliana joined them, her gown grass-stained, her eyes swollen but shining. "Thank you," she said. "You saved me, and Miami." Luz smiled, brushing Juliana's hair as if she were a child again. "Sometimes it takes the people you overlook to show you the truth." One by one, more staff drifted out. Dishwashers, valets, even the haughty butler who'd once refused Sofia entry. Each offered gratitude, laughter, or simply a hug. For the first time, they stood not as the help, but as witnesses and heroes in their own right. The world outside would argue over money, blame, and broken reputations for weeks to come. But within the grove, a new tradition was born. A family of survivors, unbowed and unashamed. Sofia felt the last of her bitterness begin to melt. Revenge, she realized, wasn't about ruining her enemies. It was about seeing the truth finally matter. It was about giving voice to every girl who'd ever been told to be quiet, to every mother who'd ever carried a secret alone. And as the sun rose over the shattered pedestals of the Vargas estate, Sofia knew this was not the end of her story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, written by hands that had once been forced to serve, and now, finally, were free to create. The city awoke to headlines splashed across every screen and sidewalk newsstand. Vargas Dynasty toppled, charity fraud, bribery, and the cake that started it all. Photos showed Mrs. Vargas escorted into a police cruiser, Mr. Vargas hiding his face behind shaking hands, and Juliana, no longer a bride, but a woman reborn, flanked by Sofia and a cluster of proud bakery girls. For days, the mansion became a circus. Reporters camped on the curb, helicopters droned overhead, and the police methodically catalogued boxes of ledgers, donation receipts, and mysterious safes unearthed from closets. Miami's DA held press conferences, promising that no one, no matter how wealthy, is above the law. The Vargas Foundation's accounts were frozen, its board of directors called to testify. Families once denied grants demanded restitution. Local teachers, nurses, and even church leaders stepped forward to share stories of funds promised, but never delivered. A groundswell of voices, once powerless, now emboldened, called for all the stolen charity money to be returned to the community. In every neighborhood, people whispered, "Did you see Sofia Morales on the news?" And, "Maybe now they'll fund real scholarships, not just parties for the rich." The bakery, once a quiet corner, was flooded with well-wishers, donations and reporters seeking Sofia's story. But she kept her focus clear. Her girls, her mother, and those who'd once had no voice. The bakery club became a command center for hope. Sofia and her allies worked with community leaders, helping families fill out legal paperwork for restitution. Carmen, who once hid bruises beneath her sleeves, now stood before crowds, teaching other girls how to speak up. Lupe, grinning, used her knack for social media to launch a campaign. #Justice is served, raising funds for abused workers and local shelters. Juliana, freed from her gilded cage, quietly supported those who'd helped her escape. She started her own foundation, focused on real opportunities for women and girls, and credited Sofia and Luz in every interview. Her act of truth-telling became a beacon for other princesses in prisons, girls from wealth who'd learned the cost of silence. Through all this, Sofia protected her most vulnerable. She made sure none of the bakery girls' identities were revealed to the press, shielding them from the blowback. She found lawyers for undocumented workers, suddenly at risk. When an angry former Vargas ally tried to intimidate her, the neighborhood rallied. Men and women crowding La Rosa, ready to defend the place that had given them so much. The fallout for the Vargas family was swift and merciless. Mrs. Vargas was indicted for fraud, witness intimidation, and conspiracy. Mr. Vargas faced federal charges for tax evasion and racketeering. The mansion was seized as evidence, its doors shut, its legacy forever tarnished. But the help were not forgotten. At a city council meeting, Luz and Sofia spoke, first shy, then proud, about the need for worker protections, fair wages, and legal aid for domestic employees. The room thundered with applause, and for the first time, their words carried weight. As the legal battles dragged on, Sofia refused to bask in schadenfreude. Instead, she doubled down on her mission, teaching, baking, and nurturing every wounded girl who crossed her threshold. One evening, as a cool breeze finally broke Miami's summer heat, Sofia and Luz walked home together. Luz, lighter than she'd been in years, took Sofia's hand. "You didn't just take them down, mija. You lifted us all up." Sofia smiled, tired but content. "We did it together, Mama, and we're just getting started." The city had witnessed the fall of a dynasty, but more importantly, it had seen the rise of a community, a new tradition, built not on fear or secrets, but on shared courage and hope. And in the heart of that new Miami, Sofia's bakery glowed late into the night, warm, alive, and unafraid. Months after the scandal, as Miami's gossip shifted from shame to admiration, Sofia's bakery became more than a local landmark. La Rosa was now the pulse of a community in healing, a place where the city's wounded, once scattered and silenced, came together to dream and rebuild. The first tradition Sofia started was simple. Every Saturday morning, the doors opened early for Girls' Day. Young girls from the shelters, the foster system, and struggling schools lined up with flour-smudged hands and hopeful smiles. Sofia and her bakery crew, now a family of survivors, taught them everything. How to braid chala, pipe roses, balance a budget, and stand up for themselves in a world that too often dismissed them. For girls like Carmen and Lupe, teaching became a new act of courage. Carmen, once shy and withdrawn, led the first ever confidence workshop, helping girls share their stories out loud, each word another stone in a fortress of self-worth. Lupe, whose laughter had once hidden pain, choreographed dance breaks between baking lessons. "We rise, we dance, we eat cake," she told anyone who'd listen, her joy contagious. Juliana became a quiet but steady presence, funding scholarships for every girl who completed the La Rosa apprenticeship. She visited often, dressed simply now, no more pearls or heavy makeup. She sat with Luz in the kitchen, rolling dough and learning the family's secret recipes, laughing for the first time without fear. Luz, though her health was fragile, was the soul of the shop. She told stories while shaping dough, teaching the girls how food could nourish both belly and spirit. Her Saturday blessing, por la esperanza, for hope, became legend, each word echoing in the laughter that filled the bakery walls. Sofia created a pay-it-forward wall where customers could buy extra loaves for neighbors in need. On birthdays, girls blew out candles on cakes they made themselves, faces aglow with pride and possibility. Former staff from Miami's mansions came too. Maids, nannies, valets, and gardeners, no longer ashamed of their histories. Together, they forged bonds that ran deeper than blood. But Sofia's greatest tradition was teaching that mistakes did not define a life. She hung photos in the bakery. Smiling girls in aprons, women beaming with diplomas, Luz and Sofia holding keys to their shop. She encouraged her students to own their scars and to never forget where they came from. City leaders took notice. Local news ran stories not about scandal, but about resilience. From Maid's daughter to Miami's mentor, how Sofia Morales is baking up a new future. La Rosa was awarded a grant to expand, adding a kitchen classroom and a counseling office for girls in crisis. Even as her influence grew, Sofia never sought the spotlight. She was happiest in the quiet moments, helping a child frost her first cupcake, comforting a mother who'd lost her job, or drinking coffee at dusk with Luz, both women at peace. One night, a young woman arrived at closing time, holding her little sister's hand. "We heard there's a place here for girls like us," she said, voice trembling. Sofia smiled and unlocked the door. "There always is. Come in. Let's get you an apron." Tradition, she realized, was not something you inherited from the powerful. It was what you created out of kindness, grit, and love. One new girl, one new hope at a time. As autumn colored Miami's palms gold, Sofia looked out over her bustling bakery and saw the proof of a new legacy. Not built on secrets or silence, but on hundreds of small voices, rising together. Not a dynasty, but a family, chosen, resilient, free. And in that golden light, Sofia finally understood. The best revenge was never destruction. It was turning what was meant to break you into the beginning of something unbreakable. đánh dấu một vòng đời trả thù không cần hận thù, chỉ cần tự do và hạnh phúc. Part 12. The Maid's Last Laugh. Sunlight danced across the storefront of the new La Rosa, its bright mural blooming with wildflowers, flour, and painted faces of girls both bold and shy. The once tiny bakery had grown thanks to grants, sweat, and an army of loyal customers. Now, every window gleamed, each one a testament to hard-won hope. Sofia stood out front, apron crisp and hair pinned back, surveying the Saturday morning line that stretched around the block. She watched Luz instruct a cluster of younger girls, half in Spanish, half in English, on the art of rolling dough. Her laughter a music Sofia had once feared she'd never hear again. The bakery team had grown. Carmen and Lupe, now co-managers, greeted customers by name, swapping stories as easily as recipes. Juliana stopped by weekly, delivering fresh fruit and helping with paperwork. Even former rivals, maids from the city's grandest houses, now arrived with homemade pastries, swapping secrets, and building something new. Today was special. La Rosa's grand reopening as a cooperative. All the girls who had once hidden in its kitchen now stood at the front, wearing owner name tags in place of helper. Each had a stake, a voice, and a future. Sofia called the group together. Everyone gathered beneath the bright new sign. Reporters and city leaders watched from the curb. But it was the crowd of mothers, daughters, and neighbors that mattered most. Luz placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder, eyes shimmering with pride. Sofia cleared her throat, her words steady, her heart full. We built this place from nothing but hope and second chances. Today, it belongs to all of us. To every girl who was ever told she wasn't enough. To every mother who sacrificed everything for her children. This is for you. This is for us. Carmen raised her tray of conchas. Let's show them what help really means. Laughter rang out, bright and contagious. Lupe queued up music, and in moments, the sidewalk turned into a street party. Dancing, singing, flower-dusted hugs. Sofia saw faces she'd taught to smile again. She watched as girls who'd once been silent led games for children and passed out cake to strangers. Even some of the old Vargas house staff arrived, arms linked, their old uniforms replaced by bright, messy aprons. Inside, the pay-it-forward wall overflowed with messages. Gracias for giving me a home. I learned to be brave here. We are family. Reporters tried to capture the moment. But the real story was in the laughter, the wild joy, the sight of Sofia spinning Luz in a slow, happy dance in front of the mural. No bitterness, only pride. As the sun set, Sofia, Luz, and their chosen family locked up La Rosa for the night. They sat together on the stoop, breaking bread and sharing memories, bathed in the golden glow of a city that finally saw them, not as servants, but as the heart of something beautiful. Sofia looked up at the sky, remembering every slammed door, every whispered insult, every moment she thought she was alone. She understood now that revenge was not about bringing others low, but about rising. Again and again, until joy itself was unshakable. She grinned, wide and unafraid. Who would have guessed? The last laugh always belongs to the maid's daughter. The others joined in, laughter pealing through the Miami night, loud enough to echo back across every mansion and empty ballroom in the city. And so it was. In the story of the powerful and the powerless, the sweetest victory was belonging to yourself and giving that power to others. La Rosa glowed long after the sun had set. Proof that the most enduring legacy is a life lived out loud, together, and on your own terms.